Next to me here on the floor, Mr. President, you will see that I have 2 empty seats, and that's because I want every single one of us to remember the 32 people who died in ICE custody last year, the deadliest year for the agency in more than 2 decades. Members
Senator
were
Ortiz,
disappeared
you're out of
every
order.
day of this legislative
Madam
session.
Secretary,
I hope that we will
please turn
speak
off
up
her
before
mic.
it's too late
Turn
to
off
do
her
so.
mic.
Thank you, sir.
And that was Republican Senate President Warren Peterson cutting off Democratic Senator Analise Ortiz during her welcoming speech at the legislature's opening session this past week. Peterson told Ortiz she wasn't following the rules, quote, just like the people here illegally. It's not the first time that Ortiz has been singled out by Senate Republicans. We'll get to that episode in a minute. First, State Senator Analise Ortiz, welcome back to Sunday Square Off.
Thank you for having me.
What Senate rules did you violate there?
I didn't violate any rule other than the one that Peterson made up in his head of not liking when people say things he doesn't agree with.
You're returning to work amid the fallout from the ICE shooting of an unarmed citizen, American citizen in Minneapolis. How has the tension ramped up in that room among your colleagues?
We need to also remember there were 32 people killed in ICE detention from things like medical neglect last year, the deadliest year in decades, mainly because they are denying people medicine that they need. And so the tension is rampant at the state legislature. We have Republicans who put on a press conference on the first day, basically saying that they want to make it a state crime for people to share information with their neighbors about what we are seeing. They want secret police. This is really terrifying.
Back in September, Senator Jake Hoffman and other Republicans wanted to expel you from the Senate for reposting information about ICE activity near a Phoenix school. You reposted on social media. One lawmaker referred the incident to the U.S. Attorney's Office. The expulsion is not happening, it appears.
It's not going to happen because they don't have the votes. But it's quite frankly ridiculous that we are talking about the potential to try to shut down people from informing one another about these masked armed men who are in our communities wreaking havoc and killing people as they did in Minnesota. We had the presidential administration quickly rush to defend that illegal action with no investigation, no jury, no trial. We need to zoom out and look at the bigger picture here, the fact that our Constitution is being trampled upon. This is the exact illegal behavior that our Constitution was designed to protect us from.
Now, getting back to that talk of expulsion that turned into a referral to the U.S. Attorney's Office back in September for possible charges, obstruction of justice, anything like something like that. Have you heard from anybody in the U.S. Attorney's Office?
I have not. It's important to remember that there is well-established court precedent that we have a right to document, observe, record law enforcement, and to talk to our friends, family, and neighbors about how these public officials are acting in public when they are carrying out law enforcement operations.
So again, I want to be clear on this. You have heard nothing from the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Correct.
As far as you know, is there any investigation going on?
I do not know at this point.
So there could be nothing going on.
In my view, my focus is on continuing to serve my constituents and to practice my First Amendment right to inform people about what is happening in our neighborhoods when it comes to these masked armed men who are violating the law and violating the Constitution every single day as they continue to perform illegal searches, as they continue to, in Minnesota, drag United States citizens out of their cars, beat them. This is not something that should be happening in the United States of America.
Katie Hobbs said on this program last week there's nothing she can do to stop ICE from coming to Phoenix, from coming here, and I know there's a lot of anticipation about that right now. Do you agree with her?
First of all, they already are here. People really need to understand this. ICE is carrying out operations in our communities every day. I just saw a video of them kneeling on the neck of a man in Mesa. This is happening. It might not be making the headlines. There is things...
She's talking about the large-scale operations like we've seen in other states.
we need to remember that we have had a very strong fighter in Attorney General Chris Mays. She has called for these agents to lose the masks because we need transparency and accountability. We've even heard Jerry Sheridan say that he is not going to accept illegal behavior from people claiming to be carrying out law enforcement operations. So there are steps that we can take as elected officials to make sure that our communities are protected.
Are you saying Governor Hobbs needs to step it up like Jerry Sheridan and Chris Mays have?
I'm saying that there are actions that we can take as elected officials, and the people are counting on us to stand up for them in this moment when we know that the federal government is violating the Constitution and is violating people's rights.
Your district, correct me if I'm wrong, I think has the largest percentage of Latino residents of any district in the state?
That's exactly right.
Is that right? Just take us there. Maryvale, what's going on? What are you hearing?
These ICE operations, as we've seen across the country, they are targeting citizens and non-citizens alike. They are racially profiling people. This is something that Arizonans, and particularly people in my community, are very familiar with when we think back to the terror that Sheriff Arpaio inflicted upon our neighborhoods. I have constituents who are asking me, do I need to get a state ID for my children so that ICE can see and have proof that they are citizens, because how they're acting around the country, they are not believing people when they say they are U.S. citizens, including children. A 17-year-old boy in Minnesota was picked up begging, pleading with them that he was a citizen. They beat him up and dropped him off miles away from where they kidnapped him. A kid. I think of my nephew and I shake out of anger and fear. This is the reality that Latinos, not just in my district, but across the state of Arizona, are facing and feeling right now. And no one should feel they have to carry extra proof that they are a citizen just because they have brown skin.
This is what many Arizonans voted for, Americans voted for when they elected Donald Trump. Do you think this is what they bargained for?
I would disagree with you. I would say that Trump lied to the American people and to Arizonans. He said he would go after the most dangerous criminals, and that is not what is happening. More than 80% of the people who've been detained since he took office do not have a criminal record. The polling is rapidly showing that people are not agreeing with the way that ICE is acting. Again, they are violating every United States citizen's constitutional rights. And I would never see the day, Bram, I never thought I'd see the day where Republicans are gleefully cheering on this absolute tyranny from the federal government. Again, this is illegal behavior from federal agents, and this is what our Constitution was designed to protect us from. Due process is out the door, the right to a fair trial out the door, and they don't care.
President Barack Obama, 10 years or so ago, got the nickname Deporter-in-Chief. What was the difference between then and now?
I did not agree with the mass deportations that happened under the Obama administration either. But there was a process. There was due process. There was an opportunity for people to defend themselves in court. That is not happening right now. They are detaining people who may have some type of protected status. Again, they have detained United States citizens, in some cases up to 10 hours of their freedom and liberty being taken away by this lawless agency. And this is the problem here, is that people are not having that fair day in court.
Do you see any common ground possible with Republicans in the legislature, given what you've just described, and the poll numbers bear out that Americans are turning against this kind of enforcement?
Unfortunately, all I have seen from Republicans in the legislature is absolute cowardice on this issue. And it is a shame when we think back to the fact that just a couple of years ago, we were able to get bipartisan support for Dreamers to be able to go to college with in-state tuition. We have been able to have some common ground on things like that in the past, but yet we see no backbone from Republicans in this moment when everything that they claim to have stood for when it comes to our constitutional rights is being trampled upon by the federal government. But I am going to continue to advocate for my community and to push Congress to provide a permanent pathway to citizenship. This entire issue that we are in right now is because Congress has failed to provide permanent pathways to citizenship for people who have been in this country, contributing to this country for decades, or for people who have known no other home like the Dreamers.
Have to end it there. Senator Analise Ortiz, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.